All right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome again. I'm very excited to be here for the webinar titled Designing Designated ELD Lessons in a Distant Learning Environment. And as you see, a name and title is at the bottom. I'm on Twitter a lot as well. So let's start out this session positively, and I would love to hear about an experience, a positive experience you've had since we've been in distant learning. I learned so much by hearing from people, especially on Twitter, talking to my colleagues about the great things, the good things that are happening. So it'd be great to share some of those. Feel free to put it in that chat box.
Let's see. So we have more time to collaborate across the district and with other districts. So a lot of collaboration going on with.
That's good.
Yeah, so let's see. One really good thing is all the sharing and collaborating. Teachers relying on each other, helping one another, learning so many things in such a short amount of time. Connecting with families, EL department, and my EL department and are doing some conversation club via Zoom with ELL students 4 days a week. It's great to see and hear our students practice English with them. Sarah says, newcomer students sharing with each other and connecting through Flipgrid. So that's a great tool. Let's see, I know I missed some of these. Starting meetings with students and check-in questions and ending with goal setting. They especially like silly check-ins right now. Like if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, that's so fun. I might have to steal that one. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and that one is from Anika. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But yeah, so lots of good things going on. Let's see. So students are adults, and it's been very easy to teach my courses on Blackboard to students and teachers. However, they have lots of challenges working with various districts.
That's true.
And then, Mandy said she did a scavenger hunt with students in Google Meet. They had to find some things around their house and share it.
Oh, that's super fun, Mandy. I might have to steal that one too. Anything to get the kids up and moving around and being engaged in a fun way. That's, I think, key at this point.
Yeah. And so I think, sorry if I missed any of them, the chat was going really fast, but I think that's everybody in there. And then I just wanted to share that over the weekend, I did a class with Foothill College and we did virtual breakouts. So that was super fun. We were given like a whole file of clues, and then we had to solve separate parts and kind of like break out for each section.
It sounds like an escape room.
It was like a virtual escape room.
Oh my gosh, how fun. Well, this is why I love sharing these ideas via chat and asking this question at the beginning, because hopefully you all can share some resources and whatnot. Feel free to put links in there for everyone so that you guys can see what everyone else is doing and see what's working for you.
I forgot, Emmett.
Oops.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. All right, so let's continue for today. So we are here about designated ELD. And just some few things just about etiquette via Zoom. If you choose to speak today, just please mention who you are so we know who we're speaking with. And adjustantly, I would suggest keeping your sound muted so we don't hear all the background noise. As much as I love dogs, it would be a distraction. And then if there's, at this point, there probably isn't a lot of actively participating today. However, use that chat tool. Jenna will make sure to keep me abreast of questions that come up that I can answer for you. And that obviously goes down to the next one using that chat box. So today, let's kind of set our intention as far as sharing what we can do, and hopefully that will come out from what we have today, finding a way that you can utilize what you already have for your designated ELD lessons. All right, there we go. It wasn't clicking over for me. All right, so there are 3 things that you must do before designing that designated ELD lessons. And you know what the great part about these 3 things are? You have them already. We just gotta locate them. So let's go through them one by one. So first, you gotta figure out, what are you utilizing? Every single English language arts curricula has a designated ELD component. It may be written in the outside of your teacher's editions. It may be a separate component altogether. So you need to figure out, where is that? These are examples of some. So for example, we have Wonders. Benchmark Advance has their own ELD component. They have the online version, and you can pull that from there. The Edge and the Inside are actual designated ELD programs. Many high schools are using Springboard. They also have a designated ELD component. And we can't forget the absolute must is your ELD standards. You have to know which standards you're addressing. You have to know what those skills are. So when you are making activities for them, it is addressing those skills. The second thing that you must do before designing a lesson is figure out who are you working with in order to design these lessons. If you feel you are the expert, or maybe you have been the designated ELD teacher at your site, and therefore you've been tasked of pushing these out, maybe it's going to be you. With that said, it's always nice to have a thought partner. So maybe you're going to tap into a grade level team to support you, or have a lead from each team. Maybe you have an EL specialist, a coach, or a teacher on special assignment that you can partner with in order to do this. Or maybe you have phenomenal administrators on your campus and they're thought partners and they have an expertise for it. Maybe you can chime into them as well. But just know that this is definitely not something you want to do alone. The more people you have on board, the more you can divvy up the work, actually. So you can make a lesson for a week, but you're only doing one portion because everybody else is contributing it. So it depends on how you have it set up at your site, depends on how that will come about. But I do recommend sharing it, because then each person gets a piece of that pie and they've contributed to it. Plus it might help with the learning process with them, especially when we're moving forward and going into next year. If you have the experience of designing now, then it will be much easier to implement then. And the third thing that you need to do before you start designing your lesson is what platform are you using? There are so many different ones out there, and districts are using different ones. Of course, really popular is Google Classroom. Everyone seems to be using that as far as publicizing their work. But then there's also the platforms of, how are you going to be Zooming with your students? Are you going to be using Google Meet for your students? What is that platform going to be? What do you have to work with? I have some things over here as well. You might be using a HyperDoc. Obviously, this is Google Docs, very easy for students to type into, and therefore you can see what their answers are all together. Flipgrid might be another one for hosting those videos, or Screencastify for teachers, what you're utilizing to get that information out. And then of course, our Google Classroom at the bottom. There are so many more that are out there. One of my new favorites is Pear Deck. You're gonna see that today. I'm super excited about it. So if you haven't heard of it before, at least you'll get a glimpse of it here, and I'd be more than happy to help you afterwards. So I'm going to take a breather to see if anybody has any questions, or if Jenna, anything came out in the chat box.
Okay, so one person was asking about the link to everything, but I said that we'll get the link to all of your resources after, and then I popped in the chat the link to the webpage where we're putting all of the recordings. So okay. That's in the chat. It's bit.ly/SCCOE-VLOG blog, SCOE blog. And so you can find all of our past recorded episodes there. And I will definitely put the link to Deedy's recording and all of her
Mhm.
resources.
Right. So I have something at the very end for you as well. So don't worry, you will walk out of here today with information of where you can find it, and it will be via Google Drive. All right. Thank you for that.
So, and besides that, I'm not seeing anything else in the chat.
Okay. Well, feel free to leave questions whenever you need to. All right. So what I'm going to go through with you first is how I actually made a designated ELD plan for me, the teacher. So if I was planning it, as I said before, it's already done for me. I'm just putting it in a format that I can utilize for myself and to push it out to students. As we know, not all students actually have access to the internet or have a device that they can get to every day. So what I'm going to show you next and what you're all going to be able to dive into is paper format. You can easily turn it into a paper format in order to make copies for students that don't have access to the internet yet. So going back to the 3 message halves before you start a lesson, these were mine that just showed up. So I decided to use the Wonders ELD Companion Work Text, and this is grade 3. And it's just the workbook that came with it, and they also have a teacher's edition. And I decided it would be best to work with my 3rd grade team on doing this so we can understand how the lesson is formed and each person can distribute or do a little bit of each part. And then how? Well, I decided to incorporate various facets of technology, and because we're on distance learning, so I wanted to show some of those. Please note though, I have 5 up here that I'm using, and I'm using them partly because this is part of professional learning and I want to show you some things. I probably, if I were you, stick to what you already use with your students. If you already use Google Classroom, great, use that. If you're just going to layer it in on with Screencastify so you can explain things, great. But don't feel as if you have to learn something new in order to get your information across. Do what you know, do what the students know, so they're not going to get frustrated with the technological component, that they can actually focus in on that content. So now that you have some context as to what I chose and how I was going about doing this, it's your turn to pull up this document. So what I would like you to do now is look at the bit.ly at the bottom. We have bit.ly /d, capitalize ELD, and then the word lesson. You are going to pull up that lesson that I just showed you on the previous screen. And I'm going to walk you through those different components of it. And then once we're familiar with that, I'm going to transform into the digital environment and how I put it into a digital lesson for the students. So let me give you a couple of minutes to pull that up. I would like to ask you to please put yes or yep or a thumbs up in that chat box when you have it pulled up, so I know that we're all ready and you're ready to follow along and have it in front of you. And then maybe you have a Mac and you can use Notability and draw on it or whatever it may be. So let me give you a couple minutes for that. So I'm seeing in the chat box from Vanessa, can this be applicable for high school ELD newcomers? Most definitely. I was thinking if I was using Edge for the high school, oh, you can completely grab that and put it in this exact format. It's made for that. It will be perfect for that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, looks like they're able to get in.
Oh, great, Vanessa, you use Edge. Oh my gosh, this is perfect. Great. All right, so it looks like everyone's finding it easily. That's good news. It means I did a good job in getting that to you. So let me move forward, and now that you have the lesson plan in front of you, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Okay, actually, let me go back and bring that up. You'll notice it said make a copy of the document. If you're going to have students working off the same document, that's essential to be able to do so they're not typing over each other on it. Okay, Jenna, is the lesson plan up on the screen? Just confirming.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I need to move y'all around a little bit on my screen so I can get to this. So what I did is I used a hyperdoc, but I didn't necessarily use it as a hyperdoc. I found that it was a great way to give me some guidance as to what to put in order to create this lesson. So up here, as you see, I have our title, and I'm giving credit to Wonders. I did not think of this all by myself. I'm taking it directly from the Wonders workbook and use the teacher's guide to help facilitate questioning. Next, you'll notice in each section, this one is called Engage. I put the ELD standards at the bottom here, and that's the ones that it's addressing. So as you know, it's a link. So I made a document with all the ELD standards that I will be using. It's super important to look at these standards so that you understand what skills that your students should be practicing. So you can either embed that in an activity on Google Classroom, or when you meet with them via Zoom or Google Meet, you'll know what types of questions you want to ask them, what to push them for in order to be practicing these standards. So the first one that just pops up is our first ELD standard, exchanging information and ideas. So I would be looking through this and determining, hey, what skills do they need to know? So for example, if they need to be asking relevant questions, then I can maybe even give that as homework as far as, please look at this picture, please have a question prepared for our Google Meet tomorrow. However that may be, but taking a look at this and seeing what standards that they are covering, seeing how that translate into the workbook that you're working on or the textbook, and then seeing what you need to emphasize via the activity you create or when you're meeting with them virtually. So that's why I wanted to make sure that you had all these there so that you have it as an insight as to, hey, what really should I be focusing on as I'm going through this lesson? So let me hide that. And then as we continue to go through, I'm trying to move all these boxes here. There we go. All right, so I took the pictures straight from the workbook. I didn't reinvent the wheel. I added some icons for it, for look, for think, asked the 2 questions. Again, straight off the workbook. I didn't do anything new. Write your answers here. So they could either write this if you make it a Google Doc, or you could also print it out, paper, pencil. It works the same with them. Teamwork here. I linked it to what I call the Learner's Dictionary. I don't know if you all know about this, but it was made for English learners, and it simplifies the definitions to certain words. And what I like about it is that it gives obviously the word, and then I could press here and I can hear that word. You're going to see that in another activity that I did on Pear Deck. So we want them to make sure that they're pronouncing it correctly and they have a good model. So that's one of the features that I love about this Learner's Dictionary. And then as I continue going down, I continue in that fashion. I decided to add Flipgrid here because I wanted them to be practicing language and being able to process it before they continue on with the week. So I reminded them to use Flipgrid. I reminded them of the code and the password. I put it right in the document so they're not flipping every place else trying to find it. And then I continue on to Explore. Again, your ELD standards are there. It's the same document, it's just bookmarked. And this was their vocabulary section that went with that. I mentioned the Learner's Dictionary before. The words down here, the vocabulary words, are linked just to the part where it says it out loud. I was able to extract that to be able to do that. So this one, I translated it to a different format for the digital version. But again, it says everything that they need to know here. I also did a video that went with this section explaining them how to do all of it. And I did that through Screencastify so that if I was going to send this in an email to them and they just had the capabilities of typing, they can watch the video first to understand what they're doing. So I continue like that for vocabulary. And then the next part was explain. This part is the reading section of this lesson. So I chunked it, absolutely needed, right? You'll notice, if you haven't already, that the ELD standards are for expanding and bridging. This isn't technically a lesson made for newcomers. However, there's always ways to adapt for newcomers because we have those ELD standards as an anchor. We can go through and find the skills that they need to be practicing and modify this so that we can include those newcomers with it as well. So I have pictures on the left and writing, and then the questions are on your right. And as they made a copy of this, when they opened it up, as you did, it's something that they can do as well. And then again, your directions, and then just activities to go through with it. Sometimes I threw in an activity or two. For example, this one, I wanted them to practice some things that we reviewed before. And then with each new section, I give the ELD standards yet again. So as you see the picture of the title, and then we start with the actual reading of it, and then the questions are on the right. I put what they have to do in a different color to signal that's what they're going to be doing at that time. I made sure to keep highlighted the vocabulary that they learned the day before, and again, a picture for reference. And I just continued in that fashion throughout the whole reading portion of this. And this is something you can easily cut and paste different portions. So as we get through this to the bottom, the next one would be the apply portion, and I'm throwing Flipgrid back in there to do this portion of it. And they're using this document. It's finding text evidence that's with that. So they have the directions, they would have a video from me explaining them what to do, and then they're gonna talk about it when they're finished with it using Flipgrid. And then this is a day that I would meet with Google Meet, and so I have some discussion questions that I wrote for them to think about before we do that. And then they're gonna start the writing process at this point. And then I have a share and reflect at the end. So you have access to this all. In addition, into the Google folder that I share with you later is also the original document that I used, the original HyperDoc that I used. And if you remember, I didn't technically use this as a HyperDoc, but I did like how they structured it, which is why I wanted to use this format. All right, time for another check-in to see if you have any questions, any concerns, any comments.
I'm wondering, hi, this is Laura. I have my office next door to Deedy at the Santa Clara County Office of Ed.
Hi, Laura.
I'm wondering with like Flipgrid and things like that, how long does it, I'm wondering how many of the folks on here use that and how long it takes to learn it and implement it.
Great question, Laura. I will let our participants chime in, see what they've done. Alex, I'm guessing you've probably used it.
So let's see. Adria says she loves Flipgrid. It's a great tool. It's pretty easy. I mean, and there are a lot of tutorials there too. So yeah, she says that it's very intuitive or easy to learn. And that's what a lot of people are saying right here. Vanessa says, we use it at the high school level. It's very easy and user-friendly. So it's nice, and I think somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. They have something called like is it their disco library? So other teachers put in assignments, and you can actually grab inspiration or grab other assignments that teachers put in and add it to your Flipgrid. So and they're confirming that it is called the disco library. So that's another reason to really use Flipgrid.
Right. And did you all find it was easy to use yourself or easy for the students to use?
Well, and Adria is also saying she's used it all the way down to kinder. So if kinders can use it, then
that's awesome.
You know, and they're using it in middle school and high school. Let's see.
Okay.
Anika says, I use it with my middle school students. They use it to post their thinking around their independent reading. let's see.
I was noticing one from Alex, and unfortunately her district has banned it because they don't feel it's as secure. So when I continue, if you have an alternative to Flipgrid that you can put in the chat box, maybe you can help out Alex with that and see if she can utilize something else. But Alex, maybe you already are, but you know, it's always nice to share. See what we're doing.
Yeah, so for me, like an alternative to Flipgrid would be Seesaw if your district lets you use Seesaw, because you can have all of your students there and then they can post their thinking, they can create videos. So and that's what I'm seeing from other people in here as well. Wow, lots of great ideas.
Yes, and I'm loving the one from Vanessa that your son's a kinder and a dual language, which is another thing after my heart. And they get to read or summarize their books and be able to see their friends, which we know that connection with students right now. I know that many of them are longing to meet with their friends, so it'd be great for them to be able to do that. So thank you for putting that there. All right, so let me go on to how I did this digitally. So now that you have that, you may want to keep that open, but knowing you're all your smart cookies and you'll remember it when I get to it in the presentation. So let's go back to that. All right, so this one screen, again, us teachers are great at utilizing our resources. So on the top left, you'll see, this is not my brainchild. Kelly Hilton, she actually is one of the HyperDoc gurus. She has her own site and everything. And I found a video on there of her creating a lesson, and she used this type of format. I love this because as you see, everything is in one spot right now. And if I were going to email this to my students, or maybe if you have kinder through second, the parents would be getting this. It's one document and everything is here. So all they have to do is bookmark this one page and everything they need is on here. You'll see what I'm doing for the week. We are honing in on Rescue Dog Save the Day for our reading. And I put Pear Deck on here because as you see by the icons on the right, they're going to be utilizing Pear Deck for 3 days. So here's the link to the website I put in there for them. And then they'll need access codes in order to get into the actual lessons. And so I put that on here for them as well. So again, everything in one spot, really, really important for them so they can't say, oh, I lost it, oh, I didn't get it, or whatever it may be. So from here, I'm going to start with Monday. Obviously, all of them say click here. I decided to go old school on this one, and I put the document from the lesson plan that we've already looked at, and I went ahead and just put it into one document for the students. And the only difference is I took out the standards. They don't need those. And additionally, I took out, I put on a name so that when they save it, I'll be able to find it. I also gave directions on here as well as to how to save it. So if I scroll down from here, as I move all my pictures around, here it will be a video of how to do the assignment. Now I found out, unfortunately, that here is my Screencastify. And so when I click on this, I'm gonna walk through and show the students how to do the assignment. But because it's on this platform, even if I play it, it's really muffled and you can't hear it. However, you're gonna get a copy to all this. So when you receive those at the end of today, you'll be able to click on them and hear what I'm doing. What I can emphasize is don't worry about making mistakes when you're doing these. It's great for students to see you make mistakes and it doesn't matter and you just keep moving on. So with mine, I tried several different ones and I got to the point, I don't care, I said that word a little wrong, or oh my gosh, my dog barked. I didn't care. I just kept going because nobody's perfect and it's a great model for students. So that is at the top to explain to them how to do that. And then I tell them what to do, scroll down to start because it's on the next page. And then there it is. Again, this one was plain Jane. I took it straight from the lesson plan. I made it, took out the standards and whatnot so they knew what to do. Flipgrid is on there. And then I explained to them how to share it for me. So maybe it's a parent helping their student for the first time and they're not sure. Or it's a reminder for those that remembered so that they can see exactly where it's at. So again, that is just the first day's lesson from there. So for Tuesday, the reason there's 2 Tuesdays is because you'll notice on the second Tuesday they use Pear Deck. I found out that Pear Deck, when you utilize it, it does not allow you to embed your videos in it. So I normally would do that as I did with Mondays. However, I couldn't do it with Tuesdays. So I said here, watch first here, and it's going to walk through how they're going to do the activity on Pear Deck. So when they click here, and there I am, and they'll click this, and you'll see me down in the right-hand corner in the same spot I am now, and I'm gonna teach them how to do this. And so they can always go back and replay it in case they forgot. And then this is the actual Pear Deck, so I'm gonna click on here. Because I'm the owner of it, it's not gonna ask me to put in the password. Therefore, when you do it with your students, if you choose to, they're gonna have to go ahead and put in that password. So let me click on it so you can see it. I love the first slide in Pear Deck because it always asks the students how they're feeling today. And it's getting that social emotional check, just like checking in with your students at the beginning of any Google Meet. It will do this here for them. Now with Pear Deck, you have the option of allowing your students to do it on their own time, or you're gonna guide them through it and be with them. So for Tuesday's lesson, which is gonna be vocabulary, I made it so that the students are moving through it at their own pace. Within Pear Deck, there's also the place where you can see what all the students have done, and that's called the dashboard. So I'd be able to see which student has finished, which student has not. If they have not finished, that's the perfect opportunity to do a check and maybe give them a phone call or reach out to them on Google Classroom and just see how they're doing and see if they're having any difficulties, but making sure to touch base on that. So I just click one of those and it's automatically gonna prompt them to go through what they're doing. And so as I mentioned, this is all vocabulary. And so they already watched a video of how to do this. So they're gonna know to read through this, talk about it with somebody, ask some questions, and then they're gonna be answering these 2 on the right-hand side. And as I'm just gonna write in little stuff and go through that, and then it will allow me to keep going through and answering that. The questions that come with it. So again, it's the same format for all 6 questions. It's just giving them a way to interact with it versus just. So that was Tuesdays. Wednesday and Thursday used to be just Wednesday. And then I realized how long it was gonna be because there's these added things you can do with Pear Deck. So I made it into 2 days. You'll notice the icon here on the left, which is the Google Meet icon, because I'm going to be walking through with them how to do this lesson. So when I bring it up, you're gonna see the same thing with it, and they're gonna be saying how they are. I'm feeling awesome, so I'm always gonna put awesome. And when it comes up, all students will see this. However, click to the next slide until I click to the next slide. So this is why it's a great feature to do versus a Google Meet, because as they're answering these, and you can have another window pop up for you to see who's answering, you can go have your teacher's edition in front of you and ask them the questions that are suggested in there, or you would have already pulled those out because you looked at your ELD standards and realized where your students need to be talking more with this. So by working with here, the text that you already have from the workbook, and combining that with the teacher's edition, you have a venue in order for them to be speaking and holding them accountable for doing that and finding your own way of being able to make sure that everyone gets that opportunity to speak. So you have it here. I believe I have another tab, but let's see. Did this open up for you all? Do you see a different window, Jenna? And you're muted, Jenna.
Okay. We see Pear Deck right now.
The one that has the code in front?
Yes.
Misty Bananas Quiz Lovely Jacks.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is when I had students, when they would log in, this would go away and I would actually be given viewing rights of what they're seeing and being able to press through those slides with them. So I just wanted you to be able to see that as well. So I'm going to go back to my presentation. So I realized that was going to take 2 days. And if you're looking at the lesson plan that we went over at the beginning, I don't get through that whole lesson plan. I was very optimistic when I made it, thinking I would, and I wasn't. So I can continue with it into the following week. in order to continue with the lesson and follow up with the writing phase, or if you're going to be doing an end culminating unit task for them to do, you can do that as well. That's with that. Okay, so Jenna, I'm seeing some things coming in through chat, but I don't have the chat box up.
Okay, so one of them says, I see that you're using part 1 of the ELD standards for the designated lesson.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that part 2 would be more appropriate for designated. What's your take on it?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. So I think, as you, that part 2 is really instrumental for designated ELD. With that said, because I'm taking this from an already existing curricula, I'm doing the activities that they had in there. You'll notice when we get to the reading part, there are part 2 standards that are in those. And if I were to continue with the other parts of the lesson plan, there are part 2 ones in there. As with anything, as with teachers, if you're going through thinking, oh, there is not enough activities for part 2, even though they said they addressed part 2, add in your own. What can you do with that part? You know, if it says that they're going to be doing clauses, but there's only one clause in the reading, well, in Pear Deck, you can make up another slide and go ahead and add some more activities specifically for that. So I do agree with you there, but trying to make this a little easy for us, transitioning into this distance learning, I felt that just using an existing text was great, and then adding in where you need to.
I have another question. It says the standards listed target expanding and bridging. Do you have examples of lessons for supporting ELD for emerging multilingual learners?
As of right now, I do not have this type of lesson. However, it is on my to-do list. And so if you're finding yourself after this that you want support in doing one for those emerging students, please contact with me. I would love to be able to work with you on forming one, and then we all have a stellar example. And if I'm working with you, then guess what? You have your lesson plan for the week. So just let me know about that and use me as a resource if you'd like to.
Awesome. And then the last one, somebody asked if Pear Deck was free, and then Olivia responded saying it's free for the first 90 days for right now. I know that there's a paid version of it, but you never know. If you really like Pear Deck and you use it for free, you know, you might be able to get the funds to pay for it later on. So while things are free for now, I would encourage people to try them out to see if it works, especially for distance learning. And there's one really cool draw feature in Pear Deck that I really loved. And so tomorrow at the same time, I'm doing a webinar on sketchnoting, and I think I'm going to get everybody into a Pear Deck so that they can experience the draw feature.
Yes.
So if you want to check that out with me, I'm going to try it out tomorrow at the same time.
Yes. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, Jenna, because part of what I have the students do in Pear Deck when we're reading, it says underline the 3 nouns. And so they go to their drawing tool and they're able to do that right there. So you can see it. It's a great feature.
So that's all I'm seeing.
Okay. And thank you, Olivia, for that. So Olivia and I, we chatted one weekend when we found this out, all excited, and realized we didn't have the extension. Our county office wouldn't allow it. So we got a hold of them and said, hey, can we get this? And sure enough, they allowed it. So we're able to access all the features on there as well. Okay. All right. So this is the screen you've all been waiting for, because I know you have tons of questions. I'm just kidding. I know that you want to get into that resource folder. So here it is for you, bit.ly, that has the lesson plan on there amongst all the other little things that I used as part of that lesson. The documents are in there. They should make you make a copy of it. If not, please do that and utilize it as you would like. I'm making this for you also that you have some sort of simplified structure to do your designated ELD that's with that. So please feel free to use anything that is there and modify it for your needs that you have. Just giving you a little bit of time in case any other questions have popped up at this time. And if you weren't here, you'll notice on the very bottom of your screen, it is typing what I am texting. And that is a fabulous feature we have here that is within Google Slides. So I don't know if you all know about that, but I love that feature. Great for our English learners. Whoops.
Yeah, so Deedy, if you can you put your mouse to like the lower left-hand corner so that you have the slides feature pop up? Okay, so as she has that, you can see that her captions are turned on when you had that pop up. So
Mhm.
if you press that button is the one that's going to turn on your captions. So when you speak, it's great for distance learning. When you have it in present mode, it'll automatically put the closed captions up for you.
Mhm. Very much. And so, but I don't believe you can see it on mine, huh?
We can see the closed captions, and then when you put that bar up, we're able to see that bar. So
Ah, got
that's
it.
super
Okay, there we
helpful.
go. Right, and you just click on it and it goes. It's great. Okay, so just a couple things before we're officially done today. So this is the website at our county office for ELD. It's a way for my contact information on there, but it's once you get into the folder, that contact information is a little bit of everywhere. We also have office hours here. So we hold them Monday through Friday from 3 to 3:30. Myself, you've heard from Laura today and Olivia, and we have one other team member, Barb, and between them and our director, Yi, one of us is on there all of those days. So if you have any questions that you're thinking about, you need a thought partner for something, it's opened up to everybody. That link is on there as well. And the beauty of it is if we can't answer your question, we can send an email directly to the person that can, because there's so many of us coordinators in all the content areas, and therefore one of us will be able to answer it if the person that's on the call that day cannot. And then I found this fabulous article, the one at the bottom, Practical Strategies and Resources for EL Distant Learning. And I just thought I would include that link just to give you any ideas that was in there. There's so many out there, but that one for some reason for me was easier to read than others and it was more applicable. So I just went ahead and put that out there in case you wanted a little something to read, because you have so much free time these days, but that's there for anytime you'd like to read that.
So Olivia was saying not today for office hours, I believe.
Oh, okay. So not up and running yet. So we'll start tomorrow. Yes. Okay, great. All right. Well, as you see, last slide has all my contact information with it. I go on Twitter. I get lots of my ideas from there, and I'd love to hear from you. That's how maybe some of you found out about this event today. Also, if you're going through lesson plan, you're like, oh my gosh, what was that part? Or Deedy, can you help me do this? Please feel free to hit me up. Please email me, get me on, DM me on Twitter, and I'd be more than happy to help you.
So
Any
I
final?
have
Yeah.
somebody requesting the article link in the chat, and I don't have that link with me, so I can't pop it into the
Okay.
chat. But Deedy can do it, and then I will also link these slides onto this page, bit.ly/SCCOEVLOG. So that link right there that I just popped into the chat, you're gonna find her slide presentation, and as soon as this video uploads to YouTube, I'll put a link to this archived webinar so that you can watch it, you can share it with anybody. But I just want to say, Deedy, you always do such an amazing job, and you bring such a great audience that I love having you here and sharing all of your ideas.
Why, thank you. And I'd love to hear from all of you, because I can't do without what I do without the suggestions and feedback from others. So it's always great to hear from you. If you have anything to share, let me know. That'd be great to hear. All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming today. I appreciate it. As Jenna said, this is recorded, therefore it will be available on the website. And I know Jenna shared that with you earlier. So thank you. Enjoy your whole week this week. Maybe some of you are on spring break. Yay. Have fun.